Hi, I'm Sean Blake, Head of Marketing at Atlassian Marketplace Partner Easy Agile, and I've been working in Agile marketing teams for almost a decade. In my career, I've run hundreds of A/B tests, led conversion optimization initiatives, and experimentation programs. Now, the running joke amongst people who do this as their job is that you can get away with any failure or mistake as long as you call it an experiment. Crash the website? Oh, it was just an experiment. Lost the client? Well, they were really just an experiment anyway. Accidentally posted all of your customer data onto social media? Well, that data was really just an experiment. It'll be fine. It's funny until you hear it used as an excuse over and over again. In this session today, I want to share some of my experiences with experimentation. Not the making excuses type of experimentation, the type that really has the potential to unleash incredible growth and transform a culture in any business. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, said, "As everything grows, everything needs to scale, including the size of your failed experiments." So the logic follows, if you're not experimenting, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, you're not growing. We normally hear about experimentation in terms of science. Scientists form a hypothesis, run tests, monitor the results, and start the process over and over again until they get a breakthrough. Experimentation in business is very similar, and if used wisely, can help businesses grow much faster than ever before. Actually, companies like Atlassian, Spotify, Airbnb, and Booking.com all credit at least some of their success to experimentation. We'll see what they have to say about their journey in a moment, but first, let's look at what we'll cover in this session. Today, we'll go through what is an experimentation mindset, why is it important, how to get your team on board, why agile teams are a good fit, and setting up an experimentation program using Jira and Confluence. More than anything, experimentation is a mindset. It's the acceptance that we don't know what decisions are right or wrong, and we are guilty of what's known as resulting. In her book, Thinking in Bets, former World Series of Poker champion Annie Duke calls out the danger of resulting. She says, resulting is when we tie an outcome or a result to a decision we made, rather than accepting the power of luck, circumstance, and probability. The reality is that it is very difficult to prove a causal relationship between decisions we make and the results. And it's very easy to claim credit for success without really knowing why something succeeded. Instead of guessing, picking, brainstorming, or choosing a solution for a customer, we should experiment and find out what really works. An experimentation mindset works against resulting. Experimentation in a business context is a process of iteratively and scientifically proving a hypothesis. It aims to prove with statistical significance that a decision or change we make is directly related to a business result or outcome. And statistical significance is when a result from data is not likely to occur randomly or by chance, but is instead likely to be attributed to a specific cause. Experimentation always starts with a hypothesis. For example, if user testing showed that our users got stuck on step 2 of an online shopping cart checkout form, Our hypothesis might be removing step 2 of the checkout form will lead to a 5% increase in form completions. Then, an experimentation team will propose some tests to statistically prove or disprove this hypothesis. For example, they might send 20,000 customers through the form as it is today, unchanged, while also sending 20,000 customers through a form with step 2 removed. This is generally referred to as an A/B test. A/B testing is one tactic we can use to test a hypothesis, and it is usually the most popular. It's popular because we can easily compare one experience to another experience while holding all other things equal. This makes for a fair test. Now, when we look at our experimentation results, we need to be really careful. We need to interpret our results with statistical accuracy. This means, first, let the test run. We need to make sure enough people go through each test to make sure any result is not due to the timing of when we ran the test. Next, we need to achieve significance. We make sure the data is statistically significant and not due to luck or other outside factors like the weather or the day of the week. Lastly, we need to measure the right metrics and understand what we are trying to influence and really focus in on that number. Let's look at a real example from Electronic Arts, the gaming company. They were launching a new game, SimCity, and the A/B test was run on the pre-sales landing page for the game, where customers could pre-order on the website. The hypothesis was the page with the $20 discount offer, the page here on the right, would perform better than the page without the $20 offer on the left. Of course, surely, the page where the game would be cheaper would convert at a higher rate, right? Well, what do you think would perform better? Is cheaper always more popular? Electronic Arts had this hypothesis that the $20 discount page would perform better and lead to higher sales. Or would it? What they actually found after running the experiment was the page without the offer, the page here on the left, performed 40% better. That's 40%. Wow. Not only would implementing the winning page lead to higher sales, it would also save them money by avoiding giving away margin on that sale in the form of a discount. Human behavior is notoriously difficult to predict. We are irrational creatures, and only through applying an experimentation mindset to their website were Electronic Arts able to maximize value. All right, we've talked about an experimentation mindset. Now, why is this experimentation mindset important? Experimentation is a mindset, but what is the craft that sits behind it? You might hear the craft referred to as conversion rate optimization, or CRO. CRO is traditionally carried out on websites, but the process can also be applied successfully to features within your products, email marketing, forms, checkouts, and even back-end infrastructure. Experimentation is so important to your business because of this formula. The formula is visitors times conversion rate times lifetime customer spend equals your revenue. But now think about this. If you can double your conversion rate, which is entirely possible, you will double your revenue. Now, for a company like Electronic Arts, who made $5.5 billion revenue in 2020, this is a significant opportunity to say the least. Let's look at the other parts of the formula. It's often quite expensive to buy more traffic or visitors with ads. It's difficult to encourage customers to spend more without creating new products or offering more value. However, improving the conversion rate is a great way to increase revenue without too much additional cost. If you double your conversion rate, your costs don't have to double. In fact, CRO is extremely profitable and has a high return on investment because you continue to compound and iteratively improve the customer experience across your product set and channels. It's not a one-off benefit. Atlassian is another company who talk about the importance of experimentation. Robert Chatwani, Chief Marketing Officer, says, experimentation is an essential part of our growth story. It's the pulse and the heartbeat of the business. Atlassian are known for experimentation, and they ran a test in the past that really challenged the way the company thought. The hypothesis here was that adding more Atlassian products into a bundle on a pricing page would add convenience and value to the offer presented, and therefore prove to be a more popular bundle that customers would choose. What they actually found was that if they bundled more than 2 products together, say Confluence, Jira, Service Management, and Jira Software, the customer would become too confused, and what was included in the offer would be too hard to understand. The customers would fail to engage with all 3 products. Choice overload started to kick in. Armed with this extremely valuable insight, Atlassian reined back the bundles, and now they don't bundle any more than 2 products at a time, keeping it simpler for the user to understand. Booking.com is another success story. The travel industry giant has over 1,000 experiments running on their platform at any one time. They started investing in testing over a decade ago, which has contributed to them achieving a 2 to 3 times better conversion rate compared to their industry peers. There are over 75 teams internally with access to the experimentation platform, and their website has gone through billions of small tests and tweaks over the years to make it what it is today. On a small scale, we can all wrap our heads around A/B testing on a page on our website. However, testing with 75 teams, like at Booking.com, is a different beast altogether. When attempting to bring your team or entire company on a journey towards an experimentation mindset, there are a few things you need to consider. Okay, so we've talked about why this is important. Now, let's talk about how we can get started and how we can scale. How should you get started with your team? First, let's be truthful. Experimentation can't be one person's job. It needs to be a culture that's introduced, encouraged, and supported at every level in the organization. What does this look like? It means leadership are really invested in this. And it means teams embrace the mindset and the processes required to make it work in a sustainable way. Running just a few A/B tests a year is not a culture of experimentation. A culture of experimentation means our teams follow a predetermined set of steps to achieve greater certainty about decisions the business needs to make. To get started, it's really important to train your team and start by defining these 4 things. Firstly, why? Explain why experimentation can be so powerful and why it's better to run a business based off research and statistical significant data rather than guessing or using the highest paid person's opinion, HIPPO. Show your leadership team some A/B tests and ask them to pick which one was the winner, and see their face drop when they inevitably get it wrong and realize their hippo decisions could be costing their company millions of dollars. Secondly, who? Identify allies on your mission to change the culture. If you're sick of waiting 5 years to receive approval from the legal team to change one small thing on your website, why not invite them to join your new experimentation Agile squad? Third, what? Define the scope of what you want to start experimenting on. Try to pick something that is easily measurable and has hundreds or thousands of conversions each week. The more traffic you have running through that experience, the faster you can determine if a test has been successful. Lastly, how? We need to get clarity around which tech stack we're going to use to run our experiments and how we're going to prioritize, track, and implement the tests. Now, we'll touch on this more in a minute as I show you why Jira and Confluence can be great solutions for this. Another dimension of the how is, how are you going to run this new experimentation team? How will the team work? Agile teams are a great fit for experimentation. Agile teams split work into repeated cycles, otherwise known as iterations or sprints. Agile encourages cross-functional teams to collaborate and self-organize. They rally around a prioritized product backlog. In this case, a backlog full of prioritized experiment ideas. Then they work to implement the test and use feedback from customers and data from the results of the experiments to plan the next iteration of that customer experience. Let's talk about an example. Let's say a pet adoption website wanted to increase the number of inquiries from their homepage. First, they agree on a common goal and decide they want to see if they can increase pet adoption inquiries from the homepage by 15%. A cross-functional team could be formed around the website, and a product owner for the team can work with customers to identify areas of improvement and common pain points. These ideas can be translated into hypotheses and added to a backlog as a series of tests. As the team starts a new sprint, the conversion analyst may work with a developer and a designer to implement the proposed A/B test onto the pet adoption website. And after a few weeks, they will review the results and decide to try a bolder variant to see if they can reach statistical significance. As you can see, Agile teams are a great match for an experimentation program because they're already set up to make data-driven decisions, receive continuous feedback from customers, and work collaboratively to execute on a prioritized backlog. What can this look like in Jira and Confluence? What tools can we give our teams to help them achieve success? Okay, so once we've established our Agile team, we can use some tools to help manage our experiments. Google Optimize and Optimizely are two options for technically running the tests. But what's just as important is choosing software that will enable teams to keep track of experiments, store the results, capture research and learnings, and collaborate to implement the tests. Jira, Confluence, and apps from the Atlassian marketplace are the best way to do this. In my experience, it's best to use Confluence during the planning, research, and reporting phase, and use Jira and Jira apps as the central place to create a backlog of experiments, prioritize across the customer journey, and execute the sprint plan. Let's start with Confluence. In Confluence, create a new project where your team can capture ideas for tests, store customer research, and brainstorm potential solutions. Create a table that references a Jira issue for each test idea on the backlog, or simply embed the Jira issues macro to see a ranked view of your team's most important tests. Confluence is where you should store the deeper thinking, the why behind your experimentation program. Include before and after stories, customer testimonials, and team values to turn it into a central hub for your team and where you can inspire other teams to join you on your journey. In Jira, create a prioritized backlog of all the experiments you plan to run. You can prioritize based off customer value, business value, or a combination of both. This will be the hub where your team organizes around the backlog. Once you've created your backlog in Jira, try a free trial of Easy Agile user story maps for Jira from the Atlassian marketplace. Now, full disclosure, this is an app built by Easy Agile, who I work for. The great thing I found about Easy Agile user story maps is you can turn your flat backlog in Jira into a customer-focused grid. Up the top of your user story map, add epics, which represent steps in the customer journey that you are trying to optimize. For example, for our pet adoption company, we might have the homepage, the shopping cart, the blog, and so on as epics across the top of our story map. Underneath each epic, we can drag items from the backlog to assign each test against an epic. Then we can prioritize and schedule when each experiment should kick off by assigning each issue into sprint swim lanes. We can also apply some filters and create a saved view to share the user story map with the executive team. As results from the experiment come in, it's important to capture these as attachments to the Jira ticket, write up your findings as a blog post in Confluence, and link the page and the ticket together. As your experimentation team grows, it will be hugely beneficial to look back on these previous results to see how far you've come. To recap, we've covered what is an experimentation mindset, why is it important, how to think about your agile experimentation teams, and how to set up your testing program in Jira and Confluence. I want to leave you with 5 things you should avoid if you go down the path of setting up an experimentation team. Number 1 thing to avoid testing too small. When getting started, bigger is better. You will want to show changes that demonstrate the potential of experimentation as quickly as possible. Aim for tests that will improve your target metric by 30 to 50%, not 3 to 5%. Number 2, avoid winning too often. Experiments that always prove successful aren't aiming big enough. Your experiments should fail. That's the whole point. The goal is to grow your business in a sustainable way. And often that means finding out what doesn't work. Number 3, avoid niche metrics. Try and optimize for one primary metric like sales or forms submitted. There are too many factors that go into influencing niche metrics like time on page, exit rate, or scroll depth. Number 4, avoid thinking digital only. You can use surveys, usability tests, and customer interviews to enhance the effectiveness and design of your experiments. Also, you can run effective experiments in offline systems too. Number 5, avoid stopping. Never stop testing. If you stop an experiment too soon, you will have wasted everyone's time. Once you've invested in this culture, it will pay you back as long as you keep testing. To conclude, experimentation is not a way to excuse mistakes or failures. It's a real function in leading businesses around the world and a real career path. From this session, you should now understand the power and potential of embracing an experimentation mindset, not only to drive better business outcomes, but also to improve the customer experience. When defining conversion rate optimization, Talia Wolf from Get Uplift says, "Our goal is to continuously evaluate our entire customer journey, and find ways to help visitors reach their goals. That's a great quote and a great way to end. Let's use experimentation to help our customers reach their goals. Well, thank you very much for attending this talk as part of Team Tour, the series. And thanks to Atlassian for inviting me on today as a speaker. Feel free to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter to continue the conversation. Thanks very much.